as I said today, welcome. My name's Jonathan. Today we're going to talk about generational differences in the global workplace, but specifically focus some on the aviation industry and aviation schools. So, from baby boomers to Gen Zs, each generation brings its own strengths and challenges to the workforce. And we're going to talk about that specifically because today we're going to dive into communication styles, work-life balance, technology use, learning preferences, and then values and motivations. These are the key concepts that lead us in our thought process of who we are and who we want to be and what got us to that position. So, like anyone, what do you do with the internet? What's the most common thing you're going to do with the internet? Typically, we're going to look something up, right? We're going to search something, and what do we all go to? Google, right? So with Google, or as my nephew says, you have to Google it. You have to Google it. So Google is our search engine. It was kind of the first on the scene, so we always just say, hey, why don't you Google that? Why don't you figure that out? I find it particularly useful, especially when I'm in an argument with my husband. It's a great way to win and prove a point. I don't know, anyone else do that? Anyone else have those moments? Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I put this to the challenge, and I said, well, what does Google say about generations? So if you know anything about Google, as soon as you start typing in, what does it do? It auto completes. And what that means is it takes its AI intelligence, basically, and it says, who else started a sentence this way? And gives you suggestions based on the most recent and the most common searches. So I said, this will be fun. Let's see what happens if I put in there, why is or are a generation, and then just let it autofill. So, any guesses? When I put in baby boomers, what do you think came up? Huh? Rock and roll did not show up in the top searches. Come on, you know these. I know you know them. Let's take a look. Why are baby boomers called that? Why are baby boomers so conservative, so stupid, so arrogant, so rude, the worst generation? Most common searches on Google. Let's look at Gen X. So cynical, so angry, ignored, so small, called the lost generation. Have we heard that before? Have we thought that before? Anyone? Let's look at millennials. Why are millennials so obsessed with food? That was the top search that came up. I mean, I love food. As a millennial, I absolutely love food. So after that, it was stupid, lazy, liberal, sensitive, and so important. Interesting. And then I really did enjoy this. Why is Generation Z screwed? Was the top search that came up. So let's look into this a little bit deeper. And let's talk about these stereotypes. Here are the most common, not an all-inclusive list for baby boomers. What do you think the most common stereotypes are? And you are currently the largest group in this room, so I know you know these answers because I know you've probably heard these whispered about you. We all have. What? Old. Okay. What else? Conservative. Absolutely. What else? Hard workers. They are. All right, let's take a look. Most common. Stubborn. Seen as resistant to change, often unwilling to adapt to new ideas and trends. Technology inept, viewed as struggling with technology or reluctant to embrace digital advancements. Self-righteous, perceived as to believe that their values and experience are superior than younger generations. Workaholics, one nailed it right on the nose there, seen as prioritizing work over everything, personal life, and expecting the same of others. And then dismissive of mental health, often viewed as downplaying the importance of mental health and self-care. Let's look at this whenever we go to Generation X. Where's my Gen Xers? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lost generation. Always the smallest in a room, I promise you. What do you think? Gen X, what are the common stereotypes? Stubborn workaholic? No. Hmm? Not an actual person. Stereotypes about them. Work hard, play hard, okay? Confused. Anyone else? Know-it-alls. Well, we're not there yet. That's coming up. They're a little too old for that one. All right. They are seen as cynical, disruptive, and distrustful or skeptical of authority and institutions, often viewed as jaded. They're aloof, perceived as detached, disengaged, particularly in social and workplace settings, self-reliant to a fault, sometimes viewed as overly independent or resistant to teamwork or collaboration, work-life balance obsessed, prioritizing personal life over career ambition, which often leads to perceptions of a lack of drive. And then finally, technologically reluctant, considered less enthusiastic about rapidly adopting new tech, but will do on a case-by-case basis. All right, this is where I start to hear the stereotypes pick up. Millennials. Give me the stereotypes. I know you have them. Do not be shy. You will not offend me. Lazy. Absolutely. This will be on the exam. What else? Shallow. Entitled. You've almost got them all. Come on. Tech smart.
Super good looking.
Thank you. What? Depressed. We are. All right. Entitled. Often viewed as expecting rewards without earning them. And I will have you know, I love my 11th place ribbon in swimming. Narcissistic, seen as overly self-focused, especially on social media. Financially irresponsible, known for spending frivolously. Obviously, that avocado toast is delicious. We're food obsessed. Job hoppers, perceived as lacking loyalty to employers. And then overly sensitive, often needed to be coddled and easily offended. All right, let's talk about our newest generation that has just entered the workforce, Gen Z. Come on, stereotypes. What do you think of these new? And I know they only make up a very small portion right now. Do I have any Gen Z? Any student pilots?
No, they want to get it done yesterday.
Get it done yesterday, okay.
No work.
Attitude, lack of work ethic. All about them. See, this is where the participation picks up, and now I can't hear. So many.
They make up holidays.
They make up holidays.
And languages.
Mary, what'd you say? Uber children. Yes. All right. What? You owe me. Interesting. Okay. So, common stereotypes. Lazy. Often seen as unwilling to put in the same level of work, that hard work that previous generations like to see. So they're obsessed with that life hack, that, what do we call it? Cliff notes, when we didn't want to read the book over summer. Exactly. Often antisocial.
DPEs.
What?
They want gouges on DPEs.
They do.
Instead of saying it's
Despite being highly connected to online, Gen Z is often stereotyped as avoiding that face-to-face interaction, preferring virtual communication over in-person connections. This is a fun fact. Gen Z is connected to more people than any generation before it. However, they've met less than 20% of them. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy to me. Politically correct. Gen Z is frequently viewed as too easily offended or politically correct, and this heightened awareness for social justice issues that come across that older generations tend to push aside. Impulsive, making quick, sometimes reckless decisions, especially on social media, without thinking through the ramifications of them. And then they cannot put that phone down. They're stereotyped as being completely attached to their device, seemingly unable to not be online. And remember, for Gen Z, technology is not this. Technology is Wi-Fi. Technology is connection. It is the progression of technology. And that's going to be huge. And we've heard about this already over the past couple of speakers, especially with drones. There was a lot of conversation about the advancements that are coming and that await us in the future of aviation. So, why does this matter? Why are stereotypes something that we have to be aware of? Because it's how it affects our perceptions. And our perceptions matter. Generational stereotypes, such as baby boomers being resistant to change or millennials as entitled, can create barriers that disrupt collaboration and create unnecessary tension. Would you agree with that? All right. Misjudgments impact our workplace dynamics, often leading to communication breakdowns, undermining trust, which ultimately harms team cohesion. What can we do about this? Well, we can encourage honest conversations that help break down these barriers, that build mutual respect, promote stronger collaboration across generations. In short, understanding the challenges of stereotypes, we create a more inclusive workspace. So where does this lead us? We talked about the generational communications within the workplace itself and how to bridge those. Let's look at something that's also important: bias in leadership and opportunities. Generational biases also impact leadership and growth opportunities for everyone. Whether you are just entering the workforce or maybe you are Gen X and you're looking for a new job, but the person you're interviewing is 26 years old or is interviewing you is 26 years old. We can create these unnecessary biases. And specifically within aviation schools, this is an important one. Students face these challenges. Younger students, often seen as tech dependent, I have heard it in comments throughout this entire cruise. These clash with traditional values. To improve learning outcomes, and here's the important word, confidence. To improve outcomes and confidences, schools need to integrate both traditional and modern technology, creating an environment where both experiences are equal. We also find ourselves in blinding empathy. So, what is blinding empathy? It happens when perceived notions about other generations create emotional barriers that prevent us from truly understanding what we're actually listening to, seeing, or trying to take in. These perceived ideas can lead to a hindrance in connections, causing people to dismiss ideas or undervalue certain voices in the workplace. This lack of genuine understanding can limit our ability to connect to one another. So approach, how do we do this? How do we overcome it? Open communication. Encourage conversations that include active listening and foster mutual understanding. We can do empathy training. Provide empathy workshops to build awareness and understanding across generations, and we can do these in creative ways. You saw it yesterday when we played games. That's a great opportunity to build empathy. And did you know you were even doing that? It was the first thing that came to mind is, I'm going to build some empathy about the people I know and don't know in here. Right? It's crazy, but it's a way to do it that's engaging. What else? Create a culture of curiosity. Cultivate the respect of curiosity with diverse perspectives. Break down those preconceived notions. Talk about them, listen to them, empathize with them, and finally, use diversity in methodology. Whether it's using technology, whether it's going to a glider to relearn fundamentals, whether it's reviewing a textbook versus an online journal, bringing someone in to have a conversation, collaborative projects. There are so many ways that schools, institutions, and workplaces can create ways to break down this blinding empathy. So let's dive deeper into collaboration, inclusive workspaces, and more importantly, let's talk about why. And this is the fun part. It's essential to understand the motivations, lived experiences, cultural influences, and technology advancements that shape each of your generations. These factors play a big role in how individuals communicate, they approach their work, and they set priorities. This is really the first time that we've had 4 distinct generations in the workplace. It's a rarity. So, this is only compounded by factors like where people come from, race, gender, sexual orientation. All of that is also layered into this as well. By acknowledging and addressing these dynamics, we can build a more inclusive and productive environment that values and leverages everyone's unique strengths. And I think that's the key here. Whether you've been in it for 50 years, whether this is your first year, whether you're halfway through your career, you bring a unique perspective, and it should be championed, it should be heard, and it should be valued. So you got a handout today. On the front page, which is the one that has the slide underneath it that says a key to Gen Z, you'll see there's a breakdown. And what I did in this breakdown is I started with the generation itself. So here's our 4 generations, their respective years. Depending on which scholar you talk to, these years change about 5 years, but respectively, this is where most people land. We look at common values. That's not the button, Jonathan. There it is. All right, so common values, defining life events, cultural influence, and technology. So let's start with baby boomers. Job security and loyalty. Is that a common value? Absolutely it is. That's why the workaholic comes into play, right? Defining life events. Post-World War II prosperity. And I really want you to focus on one word there, prosperity, because it's key. And we'll talk about that in a moment. The civil rights movement. Cultural influences, traditional family roles, and a respect for hierarchy. Regardless of skill, a respect for hierarchy. And technological events. The advent of the television and the space race. Now I want to jump all the way down because I don't want to read the chart to you. I know you can read that. So Generation Z, our newest generation coming in. Common values, inclusivity, mental health, and sustainability. So my question to you is, are your schools, are your workforce prepared for those values? Defining life events, the digital era, social media, climate change awareness, and COVID-19. And COVID-19 plays a big role in why Gen Z has those stereotypes. Cultural influences, global connectivity, and social justice movements. And finally, technological events. Again, I said technology is high-speed internet. And also smartphones, virtual reality, and AI. All right, so let's continue on this. Our first key concept area is communication style. How do you think Gen Z likes to communicate? Text. Social media. Emojis. All correct. They expect instant and digital communication, right? If you put that flyer underneath their office door, do you ever think it's going to be found? No. All right, if you give them a textbook, they're going to find it online, right? That's how it works. Ooh, what about millennials? What do you think? I can tell you, but I'm a millennial. What? Text, email. What about collaboration? Millennials love a collaborative environment. Thrive on frequent collaborative communication. You want a project done and you have a group of millennials, put them together. That's where you're going to achieve the best. And in the classroom, if you've got a lot of millennials, collaboration is going to be the key to knowledge retention and performance. Gen X, what do you want? Where's my Gen Xers? How do you like to communicate? In person. You're also really good with emails, I will say that. Very good with, but you often do not give salutations, which can seem very abrasive. I can be very offended by that. It's usually, why is this not together? Oh, okay. They value direct, efficient communication above all. Let's get to the point. Let's get it done. I got to get home. My family's waiting because I prioritize as a Gen X my family and my personal life over the workplace. I don't have time for this. Don't give me a, hey, how are you? How was your weekend? Just get to the point. All right, baby boomers, how do you like to communicate? I tell you listen. Okay. Do as I say, not as I do. That's a common one I heard from my dad. Come on. You know this. You're all in front of me. What do you like? Telephone. Oh, you love the telephone. That is a fact. But you love something else even more. Face to face. How do you feel about remote work? Yeah, exactly. Where's my Gen Z? How do you feel about remote work? Priorities. Yes. I want to be able to work on a cruise ship remotely, like I'm doing this week. So baby boomers prefer formal, face-to-face communication above all. All right, key concept 2, career expectations. Baby boomers, you make up 19% of the workforce currently. All right? You favor job security, face-to-face, experience over education, traditional workforce roles. Fair? Okay. Gen X make up about 35% of our current workforce, prioritize work-life balance, and allowed to work independent skills development. We like to get it done. Don't talk to me. My office door is closed. I've sent you the direct email. I'm working. Right? Millennials, we're the largest currently. Ha ha ha. All right, 40%. We seek flexibility, remote work, meaningful roles, and that money. Right? Those are our career expectations. Millennials in the room, agree? Okay, thank you. All right, my Gen Zs. You only make up 6% right now. But prioritize mental health and creative opportunities. Why do they prefer creative opportunities? Anyone? What are they doing on their phones all day? Creating reels, taking pictures, posting. It's creativity. They're a very artistic generation, and they expect that in their career. Now, I don't like to talk about money because there are many, many, many variables when it comes to money. And so as I share this, I just want to offer you a perspective. And this is from the Department of Labor. This is not Jonathan's opinion, but this is take-home pay of the overall kettle of money. All right? Gen Z takes home about 5% of our current pay in a corporation. Millennials and Gen X, millennials take home about 23% of the pay, and Gen X takes over about 20% of the pay. My math people, what's that leave? Great job, 52% of the overall pay. The second smallest group takes home the majority of the pay. Just sharing perspectives and data. Just sharing perspectives and data. But this is important. And the reason I bring it up, if you go back to your chart, I talked about this a moment ago. Baby boomers, you're the only generation of the past 4 that entered the workforce during a boom, during prosperity, when you could buy a house on a single income. And I forgot who did the journaling yesterday, but it was reported that today the average income needed to buy a single family home is over 6 figures. It's $108,000. It's gone up, 5 times since 2019. That's crazy. Yep. It's crazy to me. So when you have conversations like this, when you think about why motivations and values and these stereotypes come up, pay often comes into that. And I think it is something that the workforce as a whole needs to reflect, and we need to look at. Key concept area 3, use of technology. We've tapped on this. Yes?
Comment. Talk about baby boomers, like, first of all, pre-baby boom, 1940. People like me
Absolutely.
my father and mother, we were concerned daily with, are we going to be okay? And I have that habit. I worried all my life. Am I making sure that I am not going to be broke and out on the street? And I think most people in my age group lived like that. We take home our pay because it was serious business.
Absolutely. And I'll share, and I appreciate that. And the reason I appreciate that is because as a millennial, when I grew up, I was told that the only way I'm going to succeed in the workforce is I have to have a collegiate education. And I was going to college whether I liked it or not. Baby boomers, did you tell your kids that? Did you push that on them? Yes. Great. I have $300,000 in student loans. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Not the original. I was very blessed and very lucky that my parents were able to afford college for me, but I paid for my graduate degrees. I'm still paying for them. Oh, you be quiet. I am so smart. But the reason I bring this up is we invested time and energy into becoming the most educated generation in history. And then as soon as we graduated, Great Recession, 2008, no jobs, 0 jobs. What did I do? I waited tables for 4 years waiting to find a job because that was the only thing I could do. It's crazy to me. And so, you know what? Penny pinching, I get it. I understand it because I had to do that through my entire 20s and early 30s. And I'm just at the point now where I feel like I'm comfortable in my 40s. It's crazy. It's not the experiences of generations before me, but I appreciate that. And what's funny is we're raising the next generation, Gen Z. Guess what they value? They value the same thing. And it's funny how it's cyclical, how one generation and their habits influence. We usually see the yin and the yang. So baby boomers, you're workaholics, right? Guess what? That's why Gen X, leave me alone. I can work independently and I'm going to prioritize my family. Because you weren't in the home, Dad. That was it. So it's amazing how these influences are circular and they come back. And that's why I say I appreciate that. Because it's true. Yeah.
Could you go back one slide, please?
I sure can.
So taking a look at that, I mean, initially it looks like a disproportionate amount of pay going to baby boomers. But if we look at it a little bit more, and I'm sure it looks like a disproportionate amount of pay is going to the second smallest population, right? 52% of gross pay to 19% of the working population. But if we take a look at that, that baby boomers, the titles of people that are in that group are CEO, dean, president of the corporation, and so forth. And I think what we'll in all likelihood see is that we'll see Gen X move into that, and then Gen X will be the highest pay group per capita, and then each of those groups will move up into there. But it has to do with paying your dues and getting to the position where you're now running a corporation, or you're running a university, or you're running an airline, and your pay goes up proportionately. So again, first blush, it looks, wow, what a disproportionate amount of pay is going to baby boomers. Yeah, well, just wait 10 years, 15 years, and Gen X will be that group that is 52% of it.
And if you didn't categorize them, it would still be the same.
Yes, absolutely.
I hear that all the time. I absolutely hear that.
Statistically correct. That'd be a good reason.
But not always.
Yeah.
Not always. In the aviation industry, especially you're working in an airline. The longer you're in an airline, your seniority comes through, right? Absolutely. Tyler, how many direct entry captains are better than first officers? Are they all perfect and amazing because their
failure rate is actually much higher.
Their failure rate's higher? So seniority matters, but also at the same time, it doesn't designate that the skill level is there. And let me turn to government, because I worked in government for 5 years. All right, love my government partners, yay. But in government, my division chief, who was running the Arts and Cultural Heritage Division of the largest Parks and Rec department in the country, had no bachelor's degree, and her only connection to the arts was she was a cheerleader.
Well, interesting, but don't confuse seniority.
No, my
Don't-
point.
Was she good at her job?
No,
She got there.
no, she was not good at her job. But my point is, aviation is a little particular. But in general, just because you're a baby boomer doesn't mean that you have the skills to be a CEO. Doesn't mean that. And yes, I agree. The higher you get, the more pay should come with that. However, it's been disproportionate for so long that it creates these conceptions. My point is not to argue pay. My point is to argue the perceptions and the stereotypes that lead to this. Because it does matter when you have 3 generations underneath you who have scrapped and have found no advancement, who have found no jobs within their respective fields, who struggle to stay up, and especially when you're being fought in other areas and key perspectives like motivations, work ethic, any of the things that we've talked about today, the communication style. These things are important, and it creates perception when you feel like you're giving 420% and the person above you, by the way, baby boomers, the average age in the workforce right now is 70. 5 years past the age of retirement. You're holding on to your jobs, which is great, but other people are not being allowed to go forward. Again, leading to perceptions. I'm not here to argue the piece of it, and I respect absolutely everything that you just said. My point is the perception that it gives.
Understood, and it is a perception, but the perception is, at least the way you phrased it, is based upon seniority. It's not seniority, it's managerial expertise and the disproportionate salaries of people in management positions. So if there's a problem, that's it. For someone who has been with the corporation for 5 years and then says, well, I'm making 1/3 of what the CEO is making, when you have developed the managerial skills that the CEO has and you've now ascended to that position, then you'll be making that as well. And again, just statistically, Gen X will be there, and so will Gen Z, and so will the millennials. And so when you get there as a millennial, will you say that it's inappropriate for you to be paid that salary? That's the only thing I would say to
and I'm not
consider.
arguing is it inappropriate to make that salary? Is it inappropriate to take home that pay? I'm here just to share the perceptions that it gives to younger generations. Whether they understand it or not is irrelevant. It's still the perception. It's the perception. I had a point and I lost it. Go ahead.
Based on your graph,
Yeah.
incredibly interesting. Does that lead back? The fact that I'm a CEO is not because I'm smarter than anybody that works with me. In fact, I try to surround myself with smarter people. But job security is a common value of the baby boomers. And that's what I'm not seeing in the younger generation. We're trying to bring people up, and all of a sudden I'll get a 2-week notice they're leaving to go to another company. They're just not hanging in long enough to get to the point where they'll become the CEOs of companies. That's what I'm saying. I think the job security loyalty is really my secret to success.
It is, but it's also, you're a baby boomer?
Yes.
But it's also
Thank
it's your common value. It is not a common value shared by other generations. So how do we adapt to that is my question. How do you overcome that 2-week notice? How do you get to that point? And remember, I think Steve Jobs is the one who said it. People don't quit jobs, they quit culture. What is your culture? Are you valuing that person who gave you that 2-week notice? Are you meeting the common things that we're talking about today, these key concept areas? And if you are, maybe that person is worthless. Maybe that person doesn't understand that. Maybe that person isn't part of the norm. I'm speaking of a generalized norm.
And I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
But based on this, their common values don't include job security.
No,
And-
but why?
Well, because I don't think it's inherent in them to think in that direction, because Dad was never home. So, and the reason I am is because I spent my life working.
Absolutely. And I love this. I love this exchange. And sometimes it feels heated. So if you feel tense, just let it go. You're not offending me. I'm not offending anyone. I still love and respect you. It's all good. The point is to just talk about perceptions. And it's a hard topic. It's something that we don't like to flirt on because it's that weird feeling. It's that moment. And that's okay. So if you feel a little tense, it's okay. Let's go to key area 3. So use of technology. And this is something we talk about consistently when it comes to generational issues. So baby boomers, more comfortable with traditional tools while Gen X adapts as needed. Oh, we're going to be moving to that? Fine. I'll learn it. I'll use it. All right? But they're not going to be your leaders. They're not going to be your, let me go help this person learn this piece. That's actually the millennials. They're the tech savvy ones, and we're often recruited to teach everyone else. Millennials, am I right? Yes? Uh-huh. And then Gen Z. These are our digital natives. These are our gurus. This is actually who we should be talking to. And they want to use and incorporate the latest technology. So in your flight school, if you don't have the latest technology, you're probably going to hear about it, and you're probably going to hear demands for it consistently and all the time.
Interestingly, a lot of it's the technology that the baby boomers invented because we didn't have it.
That's fair. It's fair. Correct. All right. Learning and training preferences. Baby boomers, how do you like to learn? When there's something new to learn, what do you want to do? Books. Books, absolutely. We want that in person, face to face, with a notebook, pen and paper, right? Gen X values self-directed learning, but then hands-on application. So I'm going to learn, I'm going to read about it, I'm going to do my homework, and then I want you to tell me how I need to use it. Fair? Millennials. We've talked about this. Thrive, yes, Google. Thrive on interactive, group-based education and training. Again, group training. We got the internet. We were the first ones to start doing it. We got Facebook up and going. We thrive on connectivity within groups, specifically within our own groups, but we do let others in. Gen Z, we want gamified, right? We want it artificial intelligence, tech-driven, immersive learning, all right? This is that AI. This is the, what's Apple call it? Apple Vision? The Apple Vision Pro. That's what we want, and we're going to need that in our flight school. So you're going to get questions about that. It's coming. Yep. And our last area, values and motivations, and this is where we'll touch base again. Baby boomers are focused on job security, loyalty, strong work ethic. Boomers prioritize stability and respect for hierarchy driven by duty and legacy. Flexibility is less motivating. Think tried and true. It works. Don't reinvent the wheel. We have to come to fundamentals first and foremost. We have to start at point A. There's never another starting point other than A. Gen X, prioritize work-life balance and independence, job flexibility, not necessarily job hopping, but flexibility within their own position and opportunities within the company. Valuing practical skills and career stability, adaptable due to economic uncertainty, they emphasize family and personal time. Millennials seek meaningful work collaboration and personal growth. I will tell you, every job that I want to take, I want to know that I'm going to grow personally, not as a human, as skill sets in my values and in my understanding of the world. As a millennial, that's important to me. We value social impact, diversity, flexibility, innovative work environments, and are motivated by recognition. Yes, I need you to come pat me on the head and tell me I'm pretty. That's what I need. I'm sorry, that's how I was raised. But you have to also give me what I need as an employer or as a teacher. Gen Z emphasizes inclusivity, mental health, and sustainability. Seek a culture of opportunity, a supportive culture with work-life balance, and digital integration inspired by socially responsible companies. Flight schools, what are you investing in when it comes to social responsibility and sustainability in the world? If you are, you're going to attract Gen Z. Schools, what are you doing to invest in that? That's how you're going to get your students. The workforce in general, these are key concepts as we bring in and usher in this new generation. Yep. That is a great question, and I'm going to talk about it in just a moment. So on the back of your chart, I actually went further in, on your handout, I went further into this. And I actually made it specific for the aviation industry itself. And if you didn't get a chart, there's some in the back of the room, or if you raise your hand, Tyler, would you grab some for some people if anyone missed it? That's fine. So again, common values, defining aviation events, cultural influences, and aviation technological advent. And again, look at the differences as these move down, because these are what affect communication, technology, events, priorities, motivations, personal values, especially within our own industry. Tyler, behind you right there. So I'm not going to read this one, but I wanted to actually just make it a little bit more specific, so that way you can also see these and have it kind of in a black and white simplified version itself. And he'll come back around. 1 second. So generational conflict, we've talked about it specifically. It affects the aviation industry as well. We have different values and priorities. We have resistant to change on both ends. We have communication gaps, and we have clashing work ethics and expectations. And you're not alone. And one thing I'll point out about the aviation industry, where you are actually very unique. Not only do you have 4 generations coming in, you also have them coming in at various stages in their life. I don't know about you, but I was kind of inspired about Brian's A&P, because I've always thought about getting my A&P, so when I get my plane back, I sold my plane to do my doctorate, haha. When I do get another plane, I want to be able to work on it. Like, that inspired me, and I appreciated that. But where are we going? What's happening? Where are these work ethics and clashes happening? In aviation, I might be re-entering at 40 years old and sitting next to an 18-year-old right out of high school. That's a really unique thing. It doesn't really happen in many industries, but at aviation schools, I'm sure you all see it. Is everyone 18, 19, 20 years old? No, they're not. This presents an even more difficult challenge, and universities are having to face this as well. So that brings up, how can we navigate this in aviation schools? First, we're integrating diverse training methods, combining both hands-on and modern digital tools to engage students from all generational backgrounds efficiently. This can be done by blended learning, combining classroom lectures with online models, flight simulators, and comprehensive training experience. This is where VR and AR come back into place, because these are risk-free ways to practice procedures. Digital and physical resources, using both paper and pen and digital manuals to cater to different preferences and learning styles. Interactive platforms, online quizzes, discussion boards, self-paced. A lot of universities are actually saying, go watch this YouTube video and write a paper on it. It's a great way to do that. And then workshops on techniques, teaching both navigational and glass as well as traditional formats. I love the idea of put them in a glider first. Talk about the 6-pack, talk about what's valuable about it, and then put them in a glass cockpit. You could also do it in reverse. There's no harm to that, and there's different styles. Maybe that's how you reach Gen Z, and then you go back to the 6-pack. Maybe with your older students who are entering in, you start with the fundamental 6-pack, because that's what's going to feel comfortable for them. What else are we doing? We're fostering open communication. We're seeing more engagement directly with professors and teachers. That one-on-one line. It used to be, and I remember my undergrad, the professor walks in, they put it down, the giant chalkboard goes up, they start writing. Chalkboards. Remember chalkboards? Oh, I loved writing on a chalkboard. That was actually a lot of fun. All right, feedback sessions. Schedule feedback sessions with your students, not just in the room, but off schedule. Work around them. Find the environment that works for them. Maybe they want to meet virtually. Be there for that. Open discussions. Create a safe place where people can talk. Collaborative projects. Who's this engaging? Collaboration? Millennials. Absolutely. Collaboration within education is a key, especially they're your largest group in the workforce right now. Anonymous surveys. Who does the anonymous survey for schools, for your students? You ask them, did they like the course? Did they like their teacher, their professor? Okay? You can also do those at the beginning of the course. You can learn people's preferences ahead of time with your students so you can better connect to them. Instructor panels. Maybe today I'm going to bring in a different instructor to talk to you about a specific concept. It creates a different environment. It creates a different attention. Maybe it's an older instructor. Maybe it's a younger instructor. Promote mentorships. So establishing structured mentorship opportunities. These are huge because this is what connects them to the world they're trying to get into. Knowledge sharing workshops. Here's a good one, reverse mentorships. Have your students present something to teach you and teach the class about what's coming, what's new, what's available. Cross-generational teams. Form teams with mixed age groups to get different perspectives. And then storytelling sessions. Make sure you're giving people the opportunity to talk about what they're doing. How many of you are teachers? How many of you teachers really felt like you actually understood what's happening the moment you started teaching? Like teaching, you better know your information. And it's not till you have to regurgitate it that you really find out, do you really know that information? You may have it in your head, but sharing it, that's a whole nother ball game. So learn to teach. If you're not a CFI, if you're not a teacher, get involved with it. You bring a unique voice. And then finally, addressing work-life balance and well-being. Who's this important to? Everyone, but this is a priority for Gen Z. These are your students who are now coming in every single day. This is going to be your largest sector of students. This is going to be the largest sector coming in ever as they progress through. So what are we doing? Flexible scheduling. Wellness programs for these students. Rest and recovery spaces. Do you have these? Do you have a place where people can go and just be? It's a quiet zone. It's a safe place. Maybe it has some games in there. Maybe it has a TV. Maybe it has something that can allow people to unwind, unpack, and just disengage. Mindfulness workshops. Bring people in to talk about that. You're about to hear from Tyler about mental health. These things are incredibly important, not only for everybody, but especially they are a priority for our Gen Z. And then promoting that open dialogue and well-being. Make sure you're saying, hey, you've been in the plane a lot. Why don't you take a couple of days, decompress, step away. When you do, you're going to come back, and I know you're going to get these procedure turns right. I know you're going to feel better about your exam. That moment to step away is important. What can schools do? Partner with your industry. Industry experts as guest lecturers. Let industry have a seat at your educational table. At the UAA, every year, we do a panel discussion. And we let industry come in and sit down in front of 450 schools and say, here's where we're seeing issues. Your students are lacking in these areas. We need to see this better. We want more of this as we progress forward in our industry. It's important that we also bring them into the classroom, that we hear from them, that we understand what their priorities are so we can prepare our students for that workforce. Because guess what? They're going to leave you, and where are they going? Right there. Finally, structured internships, co-op projects, and practical experience, preparing students to effectively navigate and leverage these multi-generational dynamics within that workforce. So in summary, today we talked about how generational differences shape our workforce, specifically in aviation, from schools and work-life balance, tech use, values. Understanding these distinctions help us to build collaboration and high-performance workforce. Specifically within aviation schools, we talked a lot about encouraging open communication. It sounds silly. It sounds like it's something we already do, but we really don't. We really don't dive into what open communication means. We put up barriers, we put up misconceptions, we let that blinding empathy in, we let those stereotypes in, we let our values dictate something else for somebody who has completely different values. Promoting cross-generational mentorships. I think we do a good job in aviation with this. I think we're one of the only industries that really champions mentorships. How many of you do reverse mentorships? Good, good. I love seeing that. Please invest in those. They're important. Letting your students know that you don't know it all is important because it teaches them the value of always learning. Supporting well-being and balance, flexible scheduling, wellness programs, mental health resources, preparing students for these as they go into the industry, because it doesn't stop at the school. In fact, how many of you would agree it only becomes harder when you actually enter the workforce? Everything becomes harder. And then partnering with your industry, getting that real life experience and that connection and feedback. So on your handout, I also gave you this. This is something I put together. It's just a guide for future Gen Z pilots, something that you can share with them. Adaptability and training. Teach them that there's value not only in tradition, but in what's coming, what's new, what is available. And champion that. Champion both at the same time. Create open communication. Have honest conversations that are meaningful. Sit down and listen. Sometimes, one thing I'll go back to my husband. One thing we always do is we come home with that work problem. Oh my God, he said this today, or she did this today. How many of you do that? You come home and you immediately share, right? One thing that I've started doing with him is, all right, do you want me to help you? Do you want me to hear you? Do you want me to hug you? Because sometimes I just need him to hear me. I just need to get this off my chest. Sometimes it's hurt and I need a hug. And then sometimes I need his help in figuring this out. That's open and honest communication. That's diving deeper into it. Cross-generational mentorships, make sure they're seeking these because this is how they're going to get that experience. That wealth of knowledge that you have only comes from being able to share it. And then finally, that well-being and work-life balance. Make sure we're teaching that and the value that is in that. We can't undo the influences that defined each generation, but we can choose to invest in connection and creating a future where differences fuel our greatest strengths. Thank you.
Wow. That's kind of all that I've got to say. So, I mean, exceeded my expectation. The question that I'm going to pitch to you real quick was, we're all entrepreneurs. And I didn't know if anywhere in your studies, I'll give you this one back when, but what I wanted was, we're all entrepreneurial. We're entrepreneurs with flight schools and different things like that. I was wondering if in your research, did you find different generations are entrepreneurial and other ones are not? And because that may be a difference that, many of us, if we're flight school owners, we put our blood, sweat, and tears into this, and this is our baby, and it's more than just, we've progressed to CEO. Yeah. And so that may be a different mindset, and I don't know if there's different generations that are more entrepreneurial minded than others.
It's actually a very interesting question. So I would go back to the conversation of what was happening with the economics of that era. So again, baby boomers coming up and a lot of prosperity, a lot of opportunity, a lot of time to be able to create these things. And there was opportunity financially that was available that is not necessarily available today. Is it easier to buy a house today than it was 30 years ago? Absolutely not. Is it easier?
Because I'm a baby boomer.
Okay.
Throughout my career, I've gone through economic hardship and I've gone through times of prosperity. And you have to deal with those at the time. It's not that I was a baby boomer that caused me to be who I am. What caused me to be who I am is the experiences that I've had along the way.
Absolutely.
Including going through boom times and going through the times of economic hardship that you talk about, that I've experienced, that John and Martha talked about this morning. They said, like I say, I've tried broke and I've tried not broke, and I like not broke a lot better. But the thing is, I've experienced all of those things because of the length of time that I've been on this earth doing all the things I've done. So I've gone through some of what you've been through, but also a lot more of what you haven't been through or will eventually go through.
Yep.
So I've gone through periods of time where families could afford to buy homes on one income, where they couldn't, and where they could again, and where they couldn't. And I've gone through times where airline pilots have been prosperous and furloughed and rehired and prospered and furloughed. And throughout your career in aviation, that will happen. So it's not just a single event and a single trend that exists because of the period that you were born in. If I go further, and I'm going to move away to talk about my flight school, because I believe we've been quite successful, is because everyone who walks in that door is an individual. And although there are gender differences and generational differences, the similarities between a generation and the similarities between a gender are far outweighed by the individual differences between an individual, no matter which gender or generation they come from. So if you walk into my flight school, you won't be categorized as anything. What you'll be looked at and listened to and worked with and learned about, and our teaching style and our interaction with you will be tailored to you as an individual, not a Gen Z, Gen X, male, female, I don't care. You're going to be an individual. So like I said, and I'm going to be firm on this point, individual differences far exceed gender or generational similarities.
I'm glad and good. They should. That is absolutely the correct response. And I'm glad, and aviation is in many respects a leader in this area. We really are. And a lot of what I'm talking about is the global workforce, not just aviation. So please keep that in mind in one place. And again, my point in this conversation, in this discussion, is to provide perspective and to remind us of perspectives and why these perspectives exist. Whether you grew up now, whether you grew up 50 years ago, different factors lead into that, who make us who we are. And I agree, we cater to the individual, and we should. Ultimately, that's it. Coming back to your question, every generation is inspired. My husband and I owned a business. It was killed by COVID-19. Lost it. Done. It happens. John and Martha, first business, gone. How many of you have had a business that failed? Absolutely. It happens. And it happens during downturns, commonly. It just seems that we've had more downturns over the last 3 generations than we've had previously when we're trying to build futures for ourselves, businesses for ourselves, and opportunity. So, yes, everything is different. Every single job is different. Every single industry is different and reflects differently within those economic times. And so it's hard to speak globally and at a micro level at the same time. But I would say that for the most part, every generation is inspired. And Gen Z is so creative. We're going to see new industries from them that we've never even imagined before. And that's awesome. And so it's going to be whether or not they have the cash, the availability, the market, everything, whenever they decide to bring it, is it going to be successful or not? And some are, some aren't. Some thrive through chaos, some completely fail because of things out of their control.